All right, welcome to Fluent and Chill. I'm fluent. He's chill. I always feel like my hand's really short when I do it that way, but if I go like this, you won't see anything. Maybe I should go like the old. Do you remember the old NWO? And that's chill. How you doing, Jay?
Running good this morning, brother. Running good.
All right, man. So we got a full docket. We're gonna do mail drop. We got a bunch of questions from our listeners and our viewers. We're gonna talk about Kevin Durant. We are going to fix not just NFL overtime. I would say NFL overtime, but it really goes into all of them for me.
Dumb.
But
it's so dumb.
But let's start. We got one game wrong collectively. And let's be honest, you got one game wrong. I got them all wrong. I got every single game wrong. I'll admit it. I got every single game wrong on this show. I made different picks on other shows. But let's kick it off with the one we both got wrong. I was trying to be contrarian. You know, had I just picked opposite of you, which is what I was trying to do, I would have at least gotten one right. I just couldn't bring myself to pick the Rams. I don't know. I will say this. I'm starting to trust Matthew Stafford. Listen, I remember what I've always said. I always say this. And I'm gonna say it again. You are who you are until you show me you're someone different. So when there's a guy in Matthew Stafford who's 0-3 in the playoffs, who always throws picks at the worst possible times, pick sixes, and that's who you are. He hasn't done that thus far in the playoffs. He has played very, very... Now, I will say this. I don't think he's taking as many risks and deep shots as he did in the past. Now, is that him maturing after 12 years? Or is that Sean McVay's offense? Is it the fact that now they have Cam Akers and Sony Michel who are actually running the ball? Is it the fact that he has this season's best wide receiver, most reliable wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, and a resurgent OBJ? OBJ looks like the guy we thought he was, right? So we both picked the Rams wrong. Again, for me, it's because I didn't trust Matthew Stafford. Why did you think the Bucks were going to win that game?
Because I just couldn't bet against 12. I just couldn't bet against 12. That was that. For any other reason, I can appreciate it, but ultimately, I just couldn't bet against 12. And when I see Matthew Stafford, Tone, Chris Rock had one of the best lines where he says, "When you're alone, nobody wants to bother with you. But when you got a woman, now every girl comes after you. She cleans you up, she washes you down, put a Tic Tac in your mouth. Now, all of a sudden, everybody loves you." Well, same idea with Matt Stafford. Well, if you look, he's still the same Matt Stafford from 5 years ago. He's just got Sean McVay now. And Sean McVay cleaned him up a little bit. He basically dumbed down a lot of the stuff that he was doing. He took the ball out of his hands. He put him in, and not only that, he believes in him too. That's huge because Sean McVay is a very rah-rah type of guy, which helps. And ultimately, when you believe in somebody, they tend to perform a little bit better when you believe in them.
That's true.
But with that being said, he will go off the rails from time to time. That's why I'm not sold. No matter what Sean McVay does with him in terms of taking the ball out of his hands as much and putting him in better positions to score, ultimately, Matt Stafford is going to be Matt Stafford. Because I know you, my man. This isn't a situation where this is the new Matt Stafford and we got to get accustomed. No, this is year 12. I know you, and I know who you are, and you are eventually going to show me who you are.
And here's the thing. In the two games, let me go back a step. Everyone wants to look at, and I look at stats, and statistically, Matthew Stafford is a really good quarterback. Like he is a really good, not elite. He's that next tier down quarterback. Like you're going to talk about him in the top 15, maybe even top 10 in any given season. You're going to have that conversation, and you have a legit argument statistically. People are going to blame that it's because he played for the Detroit Lions. It's a pretty good argument. I get it. But again, I see what he did. And here's the thing. The 2 weeks that we've seen, he's gone up against. Are they great defenses? No. Like the Bucks were much better last year, right? But if you think about it, did the running game help? Did they have it's a lot easier to win a game when you have the lead and you can rely on the run game. Right? I brought this up in the wild card weekend. They rushed the ball 38 times because they had an early lead and they could.
Mm-hmm.
This week against the Bucks, they had a huge lead and they almost gave it away. They did give it away. Let's be honest. They did everything they could to give it away, right? Cooper Kupp has a fumble. Mm-hmm. I believe it's Cam Akers fumbles the ball. Mm-hmm. Now, again, that's not on Stafford. I'm still waiting to see when he's in a position where he has to make a play, right? Because let's be honest, this defense is playing the Rams defense, man, they're now that defense that we thought they were going to be. Right. That's how they're playing right now. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier when you have I'm not going to say this same defense, but this same type of defense carried Jared Goff to a Super Bowl.
Yes, they did.
Absolutely. So if Matthew Stafford, I guess we're going to talk about this next show when we make our predictions, when we're talking 49ers and Rams. Mm-hmm. But if this Rams team doesn't make it to the Super Bowl, is that a failure because it's the same type of team that made it to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff?
Okay, well, let's start the conversation, Tone, with I don't want to start it, actually. I want to dead the conversation. I want to dead the logic of Matt Stafford being in Detroit. Okay, he had Megatron. Megatron is a top 5 wide receiver all time. I'll start there. Pettigrew was one of the better tight ends in the game. He did not – his run game was below average. Yeah. But he had a really good offensive line. He had an elite wide receiver, and he had a real good tight end. I'm tired of hearing this nonsense that they were just okay. He had really good players. And the fact that they went 0-16 with him is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. That's number one. Number two, this group here with the Rams is built to win today. They're not built to win over the next 5 years. They're not built to win in 2 years. That's why they brought in OBJ. That's why they brought in Matthew Stafford. That's why they brought in Cam Akers.
I was going to say Von Miller.
Well, Von Miller said it himself. I woke up on a championship contender. I fell asleep and I woke up on a championship contender. And he's absolutely right. Now, when I look at this Rams offense, what it reminds me of more than anything, it reminds me of how in Washington, how Shanahan did everything he could with RG3 to dumb down the offense. And what I mean when I say dumb down the offense, I'm going to make this as simple as possible for you to make it so you can be mistake-free as possible. And that's what Sean McVay has been doing with Matt Stafford. Now, I will tell you this. Matt Stafford gets himself in trouble when he's trying to do a little bit too – there's quarterbacks who can do too much and it'll work. Josh Allen's one of those guys. Pat Mahomes is one of those guys. Not RG3, I'm sorry. Lamar Jackson is one of those guys. Matthew Stafford is not one of those guys who can do a lot.
Right.
And it turns out good. He's one of those guys where he has to keep it right here as opposed to trying to do this because then it gets bad. So I'm real interested to see how they come out.
Just when you said you got to keep it right here, I was reminded, remember that movie Hitch, where Will Smith is like, listen, when you dance, you just got to keep it right here. This is right here. This is where you live.
This is where you live, right here. Right.
All right. So we're talking a lot more about the Rams because obviously they're going up against your 49ers. We're going to talk about that on Friday's show. Mm-hmm. So we talked about that. The 49ers beat the Pack. Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers is, listen, man, people want to call him a GOAT, but more and more he's I do the basketball analogy. More and more he's like, I don't know, like Oscar Robertson, Kevin Garnett, great players, great regular season, great stats. But just one ring. Mm-hmm. And it was early. And let's be honest, he was only in that game. I know I'm picking a moment, but he was only in that Super Bowl because BJ Raji has a pick 6 on the 3rd string quarterback of the Bears. That's the only reason they win that game. Is he Steve Nash?
I'll tell you what.
Is he just going to win a lot of games and score a lot of points and get a bunch of MVPs? Not win?
I was going to leave the floor to you because I already know how you feel about Aaron Rodgers. I absolutely. I
love Aaron Rodgers. I hate the Green Bay Packers. I love Aaron Rodgers.
I know how you feel about Aaron Rodgers, but when I think about you and I have had this conversation before. You had brought up going on the road to play against them, and we can. I think now we can take out the Lambeau Field allure.
The mystique is gone.
Yeah, I think it's done. I honestly think it's done. Michael Vick went in there and won in the playoffs, by the way, because in the playoffs, like when we were coming up, Brett Favre and those guys to go in there and win was almost impossible. Mike Vick went in there and won. Eli Manning went in there and won. Kaepernick went in there and won. Tom Brady went in there and won. Garoppolo went in there and won. So right. So the idea of the frozen tundra, I think that's over. I honestly believe that that's over. I don't think that that's something now that we could say, yo, the allure of Lambeau Field. That's number one. Number two, what I didn't like was I understand that the weather is what it was, and I thought Deebo Samuels was incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
I just did not like how our offense was moving. At some point, Tone, as a quarterback, you have to throw the football. We can run the football a lot, absolutely, but you have to throw the football. And I'm looking at the defense of the 49ers, and I'm thinking to myself, we're going to have to score because I can't expect us to just keep holding these guys. That's not going to happen. At some point, we have to score. Otherwise, they're going to score. And then this thing is going to get ugly. And when that special teams block punt came in, I was like, there we have it. If we can stop these guys one time, I think that we got a legit shot. I thought they did a good job. I thought the 49ers did a really good job of keeping Aaron Rodgers not just in front of him. I thought they did a really good job with the pass rush and keeping pressure on him. Because Aaron Rodgers isn't one of those quarterbacks. He likes to stand in the pocket and he likes to improvise, but more than anything, he's a stand in the pocket, throw quarterback. That's who he is. And when he gets that heat on him, particularly in the pocket, he does not like that at all. And I thought that the Niners did a good job of getting and keeping pressure on him. I thought they did a good job of neutralizing guys like Aaron Jones in that run game. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers, a guy who threw 0 touchdowns. I know Jimmy Garoppolo didn't throw any touchdowns, but I thought that our defense did a really good job at holding those guys in crucial moments.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 things, and then we're going to move to the next game. And here's what they are, because I feel like I've never had a player get so many excuses sent to me than Aaron Rodgers. And let me just say this to the excuses that I got. There's really 2 or 3 answers. One, if you're that good, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, you can't score 10 points in a playoff game. Can't do it. Not going to win.
At home, too. Don't leave that out, Tom. At home.
Can't do it. The second thing is, he wasn't on the field when the punt was blocked. You're absolutely right. But guess what? If he's that good of a quarterback, get the damn first down so that you don't have to punt. Sorry. That's part of it, too. So, again, they want to make he wasn't there you're right. He wasn't on the field when they punted, but they shouldn't have been punted. He shouldn't have scored. I'm sorry. No offense to your 49ers. Their defense ain't that good to be holding him to 10 points. Like if they win a game, and this is we might have on Friday, we might have this discussion because it needs more time than what we have today to do. But if you're going to give the quarterback all the credit when they win, then you get all the blame when you lose. Or you don't get all the credit when you win, right? Like, it's just, you can't have it both ways because people, it's the ultimate team game. You're absolutely right. It is the ultimate team game, but they get all the credit. You get all the credit when you win. You got to take all the blame when you lose. Period. Especially when you don't throw a touchdown, when you only score 10 points against the team. Again, I get that they're playing nice, and we've said this. It was the team that no one wanted to play in the playoffs. They squeaked into the playoffs. They had to finish the season 6-2 just to get in. So let's, again, that's why you play and you've said this before. So maybe I'll end it with this. What did Aaron Rodgers say those times when he had to go on the road? Man, we need to get these games in Lambeau Field. Well, there you go. You got it in Lambeau Field. Didn't make a difference. We're going to talk more about Aaron Rodgers here in a minute. Mm-hmm. Bills lose what I call the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. Because if that was the Super Bowl, we would have been, like, if you add in Dr. Dre, Eminem, Mary J. Blige at the halftime show of that game, we're talking about the greatest Super Bowl maybe ever. What a great game. 13 seconds. We'll get to that in a minute.
I'm thinking about great games that I've seen in the postseason. And I'm thinking about the Patriots and I believe in Super Bowl 43 against Carolina. That's one of the best games that I'd ever seen. Patriots against Atlanta when they came back, being down 28-3. one of the better games in the postseason.
Yeah.
One of the better games that I'd ever seen. That right there was probably, I can actually say it's the best game that I've ever seen. Because when I think of it, and Tone, let's get the idea. Well, Patrick Mahomes was able to get off 3 plays, and Dak Prescott wasn't able to get off 1 in the same amount of time. Well, first of all, they had 3 timeouts, so let's kill that lie.
Yeah. It was a very different situation. Yes.
Don't make it sound like
Agreed.
he just had. They did have 3 timeouts, but I was completely wrong, Tone. You and I had this conversation. I did not like Josh Allen getting into a shootout with Pat Mahomes. I didn't like it at all. I thought that it was going to be something that was going to be terrible for Buffalo. Only except I was completely wrong. His ability to stand in the pocket, his ability to improvise. And Davis, with 4 touchdowns, I think a lot of that had
200 yards and 4 touchdowns.
200 yards and 4 touchdowns. I had a lot to do with the fact that Stephon Diggs was double covered. Yeah. Kansas City made it clear, you're not going to beat us.
You're not beating us.
We'll deal with Davis. We'll deal with your run game. We'll deal with Josh Allen. You are not going to be a part of this, though. We're going to take you out of the game. And if that means that we got to cover you twice, we will.
We're going to get to the overtime in a second, so I'm going to end this game on this. Stop playing prevent defense. Ugh. Because I've stolen this line from somebody else. The only thing prevent defense does is it prevents you from winning. Period. Like, so I heard it, and it's the most accurate description of the prevent defense. Is all it does is prevent you from winning, because he should not have been able to do that in 13 seconds. Just shouldn't. I don't care if he had 20 timeouts. You can't let that happen. Now here's the thing. As great as Patrick Mahomes is, he also has some great players around him. We seem to forget, like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. I do want to ask you this. They've been given taunting penalties for people staring other people down. How are you behind a defensive player on the 15 or 20-yard line and you're giving them the peace out, and that's not a taunting penalty? Now, let's be clear. I hate the damn taunting penalty. I think it should be gone. But how is that not a taunting penalty?
That's it. Well, actually, it is, Tone. It's just a taunting penalty in the second quarter. It's a taunting penalty.
Oh, it's not. Quarter. It's not. Because had they called it there, would they call it back?
For a go-ahead touchdown? Absolutely not.
Could you imagine they called that back for taunting? You know what? That would have sent. If they were really serious about this, listen, again, let me put it out on the record. I don't like the rule. However, if they're really serious about getting rid of it, call that penalty. Call that touchdown back. I guarantee you no one does it again. Could you imagine he cost the Chiefs the game because he couldn't control himself? Yeah. That would have said, see, that sports miss their opportunities to really send a message.
Just get rid
of the rule. So get rid of the rule.
Just real quick, Tone. In the 1976 AFC Championship game, Franco Harris basically traps the ball and catches it and runs into the end zone against the Raiders, against the Oakland Raiders. The referee, because we're not sure if he caught it, the referee goes to the police and asks the police, because he didn't think that it was a catch. He says to the cops, if I say that this wasn't a catch, do you think you can get me out of here safely? And the police said, no. You can't. And he went. So is
that the immaculate reception?
Absolutely, the immaculate reception. So if we got the go-ahead touchdown,
I bet you there's film out there that shows the ground, and I think I think they've cut it.
I'm sure of it,
so that you can't see it. Yeah,
I'm sure of it. So if we got the go-ahead touchdown with Tyreek Hill, is basically he got the defender, but the defender is in front. The defender's going to cut him off, and Tyreek knows this guy's not going to catch me, and he already throws up the peace sign. The flag comes out at that time of the game
in Kansas City. In Kansas, yeah, he might not make it out alive.
Good luck.
But hey, they would have sent the message. All right, the Bengals. The Bengals beat the Titans. Now, I want to put it out there because I don't want people thinking I don't know anything about football. I picked the Bengals in every other show that I was on. I picked the Bengals to win, but like I said, I didn't want us to always pick the same game, so I picked the Titans. But I wasn't surprised at all that the Bengals went in there and beat them. I wasn't.
Well, you know this, Tone. I was big on the Bengals from the minute we started this.
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
I dug
preseason.
Yeah, I was big on the Bengals the minute that we started this. I just liked what they had offensively. I liked their pass rush and Hendrickson. And I am not one to buy the logic. Well, this didn't hurt us, or this didn't end the game. Yes, it did. Ryan Tannehill, you threw an interception, game's over. That's the game right there. Of all the things that went on during the game, running,
started the game with an interception,
right?
Ended the game with an interception.
Absolutely. All of the stuff that he did, none of that matters specifically because you threw an interception, they get the ball back, they score. Game's over. So we can have a conversation, Tone, about everything that Joe Burrow did. We can have a conversation about how good Joe Mixon was. We can have a conversation about how good that defense was. At the end of the game, you turn the ball over, game's over.
Ryan Tannehill is played. I shouldn't say he's playing because he's not playing anymore. Ryan Tannehill played how I expected Matthew Stafford to play. Trying to being out of his zone, trying to do too much. And like, you can't start listen, you want to, if you're going to throw a pick, you want to throw it early. So, okay, first pass of the game, interception.
Which he did.
But you don't want to throw them late because it costs you the game, and that's what it did. So, yeah, this one, I hate to say it because we're saying it. If they would have won, this one lands squarely on Tannehill's shoulders. And now they got to wonder, what do we do? Because there's another team now that's really good defensively, has a great running game, and has really good wide receivers. I feel like there's so many teams, just a quarterback away. And when I say a quarterback, I mean good quarterback play away from being a true Super Bowl contender.
Tone, don't think for 1 second that that's not the conversation in the front office, that we got a legit shot at doing this. I don't know if we got the right guy under center.
And listen, windows are small. People think like you have 10, 15-year careers. Nah, man. You have a small window. Just ask Dan Marino, who went to a Super Bowl really early in his career, and everyone thought he lost it. That's okay. He'll be back. He never went back.
Not one time, Tom.
Never went back. Ask Aaron Rodgers, who went to a Super Bowl. I don't want to say early. Yeah, pretty early in his career. It
was his fourth year as a starter.
Fourth year as a starter. He's never been back. You only get so many chances. Because don't forget, to get to the Super Bowl, to get to an NBA final, to get to a Stanley Cup, to get to wherever you want to go, things have to bounce your way. You have to get breaks. Your team has to be in a certain mindset. Like everything has to go right for you. So it doesn't happen that often. I want to go back to the Bills and Chiefs game because obviously that game went into overtime. And as they were making the coin flip, FYI, I was telling Josh Allen, call heads, because I don't know why. I just feel like it's always heads. He calls tails. 11 playoff games have gone to overtime. And the winner of the coin flip in those 11 games, who obviously always receive 10-1. 10-1.
That's over like 90%.
It is, yeah, just over 90%. You're absolutely right. So let's be honest, man. This overtime rule doesn't work. Before I go into how to fix overtime, because I do, there's a strange rule that not many people know about in the NFL. And I want to ask your opinion on this. You saw the way the defense was playing. The defenses were playing. They were tired. They were gassed. I think everybody knew whoever gets the ball first is winning the game, right?
That's how I get it.
And I understand that the way they've changed the rules, what I'm about to say is really, 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 really hard to do. But I think giving them the ball at 25-yard line or giving them the ball at the 50-yard line, I don't think makes a difference. I think they were going to score either way. So knowing that in my head, if the Buffalo Bills kick an onside kick and recover it, do you know that they just have to go that 20 yards, kick a field goal, and they win? Because that was the receiving team's opportunity to have the ball. So you don't have to score a touchdown? Would it have been worth a try knowing that if you give them the ball, they're going to score, regardless of where they started? Because people will tell me it's really hard to get an onside kick against the Chiefs. I know. I think 13% chance or something like that. I don't know what it was. And you're giving them the ball at the 50-yard line. And that's where I say, well, if you give them the ball at the 25 or the 50, they were scoring, right? Your defense was gassed. They weren't going to stop them anyways. I felt like the only chance you had was an onside kick. Hopefully you recover it and kick a field. And then all you have to do is kick a field goal. Is that crazy?
No, it's not crazy. And the reason why it's not crazy is because if they get the ball back, we're probably not going to stop them anyway. Yeah. Right. We're not going to stop them anyway. And the same idea with them, they weren't going to stop us.
Right.
My problem with the overtime rule, Tone, is I hate this whole tie thing. Not just in the playoff, in the regular season. All of a sudden in the playoffs, we have to play until somebody wins. Why don't we have to play until somebody wins all the time? Why do we have to tie in the regular season But in the playoffs, we got to play till somebody wins. You do not tie. You don't tie in basketball. You don't tie in baseball. We'll play 25 innings. Somebody's going to win this game. Same idea in basketball. We'll play 6 overtimes. Somebody's going to win. Same idea in football. You don't play at the end of the game, it's 19-19. All right, guys, well, we tried. That's the end of it. No. You play until somebody wins. I think that's nuts, Tone. I've never, ever understood that for the life of me.
Okay. So let's go through. Let me go through this because I agree and I disagree. So first, let me tell you why I disagree. Because in today's day and age, everyone says it's about player safety. It's about player safety. That's what every executive tells me. So I say, well, if it's about player safety, then every sport at the end of regulation should end in a tie, if it's a tie. And just call it a tie because you don't need a winner in the regular season. You don't. So leave it as a tie. They don't play extra innings. They don't play extra quarters. They don't less chance of getting hurt, less minutes played. There's just so you know, the amount of games that actually go into overtime is like 13%, 18% in baseball is the highest one. 16%, 12% in basketball. Right. The percentages it's under 15%. So it's not a lot of games. So just let it end in a tie. In the playoffs, however, I agree with you. And again, if player safety is your most important thing, if it's not, then I agree with you. Mm-hmm. Play as long as you need. Because my solution was in the playoffs, because I hate this. I hate penalty kicks. I hate penalty shots. I hate, to determine a game. Like in soccer, if it goes through the overtime period or the extra time, they do penalty kicks. Well, I'm not having a 3-point shooting contest at the end of a basketball game.
What we gonna do, Tone? Me and LeBron, we going into overtime, and me and LeBron gonna play 1-on-1.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I say, let's stick to the football because everyone's argument is, both teams should have an opportunity to have the ball. Funny enough, Kansas City voted for that. Buffalo voted against it, and it's came to kind of bite them in the butt. Right. But my solution is this: they play a 15-minute quarter. So instead of that, in overtime, you play 10 minutes. Because 10 minutes, typically, very few teams can run a 10-minute offense, right? That's why I picked 10 minutes, because I think you guarantee each team gets the ball, right? We've seen 4, 6, 7-minute kind of I can't see a team in overtime being that tired, the defense being that tired, holding the ball for 10 minutes. Like, I don't think it happens.
Well,
so you pay. It's how often can someone hold the ball for 10 minutes? It's tough, is my point. So they play a 10-minute quarter, and whoever wins. And then if they're still tied, then you play another 10-minute quarter. And I put that out there, and someone said, what do you think these guys are, marathon runners? No, I think they're professional athletes. And I think if you play a 10-minute quarter and now it's the second one, defense is going to probably get really tired, or the offense is going to get really tired, and they're going to get sloppy, and the team that's in better position is going to win. Because I want them to win the game that they're playing, which is football. It's not penalty kicks. It's not field goals. Because the idea of here, you want a coin flip, you get the ball first, go score a touchdown, and you win is crazy to me. Now, and I don't like the gimmicks. I don't like the NCAA start over on this, on the 25-yard line. And that's a gimmick. Play the game.
I'd actually like to split the difference, Tone. Instead of 10 minutes, let's go 7. Just like in
7.
NBA.
Sure. Yeah, sure. 7 minutes. Whatever the number is. Okay.
Just like in the NBA where they have 5-minute overtimes. I'm thinking 7 minutes. And you don't score, we go another 7 minutes. You don't score, we go another 7 minutes. Absolutely. And the first team to score, okay, I can absolutely get with that logic that the first team to score, you have to get an opportunity to get the ball back. All right. So if we score, you get the ball back. You don't score, game's over. No question about that. I'm absolutely. Maybe
that's okay. How about this? And then we'll move on because I don't want to. We're not going to sell it all in one show. But the first one is 7 minutes, and you just play the full 7 minutes. Yep. If after that 7 minutes you're still tied, then you go into like that sudden death like you just mentioned. You get the ball, score, great. You get it, and you don't score, game's over.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. That gives everybody a chance to have the ball, which I think is. Right. Then, you got to hold them to a field goal and score a touchdown yourself or whatever. Because that's really I think baseball does it right. You just play an extra inning. Now, granted, right, they each get three outs just like a regular game. Right. I think basketball, same thing. Just do that. Hockey and soccer I don't like. All right. So there you go. We just fixed overtime. Let's switch to basketball. My least favorite superstar of all time. I think he's soft, like Charmin. At least off the court. On the court, he's a little tougher on the court. Kevin Durant. Everyone wants to anoint Kevin Durant as the greatest basketball player, not just right now, even though he's hurt, but like of all time. They want to drop him squarely into that top 10. And I asked the question, other than scoring, what's he great at?
Well, here's the thing, Tone. You'll have some people that'll tell you, well, isn't that the object? Is to put the ball in the basket, right? That's the object. Well, unfortunately, that's not the only object. And when I hear people say stuff like that, it's the same as people saying, just run the ball in the end zone. Just hit the ball over the fence. Well, it's a lot more difficult than that, way more. So when a guy like Kevin Durant, who is primarily buckets, whenever I hear stuff like, Kevin Durant is an underrated defender. No, he's not an underrated defender, because what an underrated defender means is he's not doing it enough. That's why we ain't paying attention. So there's a reason why Tim Duncan was the all-league defender that he was. Even though his game was as mundane as it was, we had to pay attention to what he was doing because he was doing it so much. We are not, I quote, we are not paying attention to Kevin Durant as a defender because he's not. That's why we are not paying attention to him. He's George Gervin, just a better version. More skilled, bigger. That's what he looks like.
I think people confuse the versatility of his scoring, because I've said he might be the most versatile scorer because he can post you up. He has a mid-range and he can shoot from the outside. I give him that. He has the fourth most I love how people say he's the greatest scorer of all time. And I think, how? And they say, well, he scores more points on less shots. He's the fourth highest points per game for his career. And he shoots, this 50-40-90 club. I always love when people bring that up. I'm like, wasn't Tony Snell like in the 60-100 club or something ridiculous? Like, okay. But if you look at his career, he averages 27 points a game, which is fourth best all time. It's amazing.
Which is the same as LeBron James, by the way.
Which is the same as LeBron James. Right? Yeah, exactly. He also shoots a lower percentage than LeBron James. In fact, he shoots a lower field goal percentage than Michael Jordan. So then why aren't you calling Michael Jordan or LeBron James the greatest scorers of all time? I do call Michael Jordan for that matter. And people say, well, because he's a better three-point shooter. Okay. So you're knocking Jordan or LeBron because Jordan shot the mid-range and LeBron gets to the bucket? I've always laughed when people say, well, LeBron's field goal percentage is really high because it's all 0 to 3 feet. Damn, good for him that he can get into 0 to 3 feet and do it at a higher clip than anybody else. Good for him. So, okay. So I'm just going to share some stats as well, because I think it's important. So he is fourth all time, 27 points per game, but he's behind I think he's behind Elgin Baylor. No one tells me Elgin Baylor is the greatest scorer of all time. His top season, his highest scoring season, doesn't rank in the top 25 in terms of points per game.
That's nuts to me.
So there's been 25 players who've had more points per game in a season than him. His assists, because that's part of offense too. And I get it. The team that scores the most points wins the game. I get it. And that's great. That you're a great scorer. That's amazing. Maybe one of the greatest. Actually, no, I'll say one of the greatest scorers ever. If you're top 4 all time, yeah, I say you're one of the greatest. But 192nd all time in assists per game. Yikes. Behind Bill Russell, behind Wilt Chamberlain, behind Giannis. Those guys aren't point guards, my friends.
No, they are not. Rebounds
per game, 244th in rebounds per game. Behind guards who don't rebound. They're not now. Okay. Magic Johnson and Jerry Sloan, to name a couple. Turnovers per game, 20th all time. So for all those that say he's got such good handle, he's so good with the pill. You say this too. He also turns the ball over more than a lot of people in the history of basketball. And before you say, well, that's because the ball's in his hand a lot. Well, yeah, that comes with it. But guess what? There's point guards that he turns the ball over more than point guards who have the ball in their hands more than he does. And who have a lot more assists. Like when you're only averaging 4 assists a game, You can't have 3.1 turnovers a game. You just can't. Sorry. 0 all defensive teams. So maybe he is an underrated defender, really underrated, or maybe he's just not that good of a defender. His 2 rings, well, I thought rings were a team accomplishment, right? Depending on what side of the coin you're on, you say, oh, well, he's got 2 rings, 2 finals MVPs. Yeah, he was the best player on the Warriors team, but he did join a team that had won 73 games the year before. And if you're going to say people always rings matter, rings don't matter. And right, people always have that argument. Rings matter when I want them to. Rings don't. Like people will say, I'm going to use the LeBron and Jordan one because it's the most popular. Jordan is better because he has 6. LeBron is great because, or no, Jordan is better because he has 6. You and I got this question on our live. If LeBron wins 1 more, is he the GOAT? Well, hold on. Does that mean he's not the GOAT now because he doesn't? Like that's still 5. All that does is tie him with Kobe, and it took him 11 times to do it. Mm-hmm. Rings are team accomplishment. Rings, I always say this, rings are the cherry on the sundae, right? After you've built it all up and there's nothing else, you're at the peak and you don't know what else to do. Okay, then you can talk about rings because there's I don't have anything else. Like if every statistical, and you're never going to have this, if every statistical category is tied, if Joe Montana and Tom Brady had the exact same amount of games played, the exact same amount of yards, the exact amount of touchdowns, the exact amount of interceptions, and one guy had 5 rings and the other had 4, you could say, well, everything else is the same. So I go with the guy that has more rings. Okay. Nope. Then I go with the guy. We're not there yet. That's not where we are. These 2 rings aren't enough. So I guess the question is, for those that are dropping him in the top 10, just being, let's say he's the greatest scorer of all time. I won't even argue that, even though I don't believe it. Let's say being the greatest scorer of all time. Does that make you the greatest basketball player of all time?
Your Honor, my counterpart here makes a very compelling case, and I like absolutely what he said. However, what is Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant is a scorer. So my counterpart here mentioned that Kevin Durant is 4th all time in points per game. Well, we can't stop there. I mean, that's at 27 a game in the regular season. Well, it got advanced in the playoffs because he's 3rd all time at 29 a game in the playoffs, which means his play increased. My counterpart here mentioned that Kevin Durant has 2 rings. Well, he could have got on that Warriors team and just done okay, only except he didn't. He got on that team and he was really, really good. Now, they won that primarily because they had a really good team, and adding him.
They had a great team.
Yeah, they had a great team, and then adding him was what it pushed it. So essentially what he was the Warriors were the 96 Bulls, and then they added Dominique Wilkins to the team. That's basically what they did. So that's the idea with them. But add that to the fact
no, time out. No, that's not what happened. No, it was like the 86 Celtics and Jordan joined them.
Well, not Jordan. Let's say Dominique Wilkins.
No, because he's the best.
Right?
He's the best scorer. So no offense to Dominique Wilkins, but this is a team that was considered the best team. They won 73, the best regular season ever, and they added the best scorer in the league.
And they got into the playoffs, and Jordan averaged 35 a game in the playoffs. Yeah. So he still did his job.
Yeah. No,
he still did his job. He's in the top 35 all time in finals points. All right. He's in the top, I believe he's in the top 20, not top 20. I think he's in the top 10. Top 20 all time in playoff points. So the question about him.
You still haven't told me anything other than scoring, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. The idea that he's a scorer. That's what Kevin Durant is. All right. So Kevin Durant is a scorer. Now, as far as a complete player, well, that's up for debate, Your Honor. Absolutely, it's up for debate. But ultimately, he's a bucket getter. And he's one of the best at his job. I don't believe he is the best at his job. I believe that he is one of the best in terms of his ability to score at a versatile level. A guy at 6'10" who can handle the basketball, a guy at 6'10" who can shoot the long ball, who can shoot at the mid-range. Does that make him a top 10 player all time? Well, what has that produced? That has produced him winning. I mean, he did go to the Western Conference Finals 3 times in 5 years with a young Russell Westbrook. Sure. He did do that with a young James Harden. He did do that with a young Ibaka, and he was the catalyst of that unit. Absolutely. Do I think that Kevin Durant is a top 10 player all time? I do not, but I do think he's a top 20 player all time.
He's a great scorer. Like I said, let's say he's the greatest scorer of all time.
No, let's not say that, Tone.
No, I'll say it. I'll say it.
I'm not saying
it. I'll say it for this. I don't believe it, but I'll say it just to say this.
Okay.
Is he an elite rebounder?
No.
Is he elite like playmaker?
No.
No. Is he an elite defender? No.
One time, Tone, in his 15 years in the NBA, one time he finished in the top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year. And he finished 9th, by the way.
So when we bring up the others in those top 10, all of them do more than one thing. Is Jordan an elite defender? Yes. Is LeBron an elite passer? Yes. And can be an elite defender? Yes. So that's what I'm saying is, I'm sorry, I can't put you up in that top 10 because there's for doing one thing, even if it is. I don't want to have that argument. Even if it is better than anybody else, it's that one thing. You don't do it that much better than everybody else that it's like you're leaps and bounds ahead of them, right? Because you could make an argument, right? Like if he was number 1 all time in points per game and for his career was averaging 40 points per game and did nothing else, okay, then you could be like, hey, he does this so much better than everybody else that it's not even close, and he doesn't have to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's a legit debate. So if it's a debate for that one thing that he does, well, then all those other things have to come into account too. Mm-hmm. So again, it's not. Yeah, I'm going to say you're hating. You're hating. I don't hate Kevin Durant. I think he's, like I said, I've called him the most versatile scorer to ever play the game. But I can't put him into my top 10 because he does one thing exceptionally well. He needs to do more. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Does he affect the game that much with that one thing?
He can. But here's the thing. If you find a way, I'm not going to say he can. If you find a way to stop him or slow that down, you can't stop it. But if you slow down his scoring, what else can he do for you?
Well, that's my point to you, Tone. Does he affect the game that much with that one thing more than Bird affects the game with all of the things that he does?
Exactly. And the answer
magic.
is no. Yeah. And the answer is no. The answer is just it's no. And so again, that's why I say it's not hate. He's amazing. He's phenomenal. He's top 20.
That's why I don't have this conversation with people when they talk to me about is he better than Bird. I'm like, you have no idea how good Bird was.
You can't. Bird could do everything he could do. He was around the same size. Mm-hmm. Plus, he could rebound and defend and pass. Like he literally did everything else better. So he was just as good and versatile a scorer without the athleticism. Mm-hmm. And not that Kevin Durant's really crazy athletic, anyways. But he basically could do everything as a scorer that he could do. Plus, he could pass, rebound, and defend. So I'm sorry, that's the better player. I don't care what your logic is; it's wrong. All right, mail. We got a bunch of really good questions. So, Pacers fan sends us this. Mm-hmm. I'm worried about my Pacers and their full rebuild. What do you think they should do? Obviously, we've heard the Pacers want to trade away Turner, Sabonis, LeVert. Like everybody on their roster is up for trade. Should they blow it up and trade everybody?
Well, the Pacers have been one of the most snake-bitten teams in terms of injury. I mean, I saw them in the bubble 2 years ago. I was a big CJ Warren fan. I dig him. He was consistently 20 a game.
TJ, right?
TJ, not CJ. I'm sorry. TJ Warren, not CJ. TJ Warren. He was one of the most consistent scorers in the game. I think Miles Turner also one of the better bigs in the game. They were on their way to doing something special, I thought. See, TJ Warren got hurt. And then the next year, Miles Turner got hurt. So they've been snake bitten with injuries. So with that being said, Tone, there's a movie called Waiting to Exhale. In that movie, Bernadette has basically a fire sale where you can get like $200 skis for like $10. So in this particular situation, what I'm looking at with the Indiana Pacers, you could probably get pennies on the dollar for what they have. So if you call up Indiana and you ask for, if you're Chicago or if you're Miami and you call up Indiana and ask for Miles Turner, you could probably get him for a 6-pack and a bucket of extra crispy.
But why hasn't it's been rumored that they're available? Why hasn't it happened yet?
Well, the reason why it hasn't happened yet is because I think that we're waiting for the trade deadline. Not to mention, there's a lot of teams who are rolling right now. I mean, Miami's in first place, right? Milwaukee's is a game out of first place. So there are a lot of teams that are rolling. And I don't think that they just want to deal with anybody. Not to mention, I think that they want to do Miles Turner a service. I don't think that they just want to ship him to Sacramento. I don't think they just want to ship Sabonis to New Orleans or something like that. I think they want to.
They're trying to find good landing spots.
Yeah, I think they want to try and find.
Because if I'm in the 7, 8, 9, 10 seed, I'm making those calls, right? Like if I'm any of those kind of if I'm the Lakers, if I'm the Raptors, if I'm Minnesota, there's teams that are kind of those bubble playoff teams right now. I'm making those calls because I think those guys help.
Yeah, if I'm Charlotte, I'm asking for Sabonis.
Yeah,
absolutely,
100%.
If I'm Charlotte, I'm absolutely asking for Sabonis. If I'm Sacramento, I'll ask for Sabonis, and I'll give you Fox, and maybe you can start this thing over with those two. If I'm
Philadelphia,
I'm calling up and I'm asking for maybe Sabonis because I think he helps.
So let me pause you there. Because that's we've both done this. We both talked about what other. What should Indiana do? Should they trade all these guys for draft picks? Should they go young? Like what would you do if you're the GM of Indiana?
Well, the first thing that I need to starting over, and Indiana is not a destination city, so we're gonna have to build it exactly how we're doing it through trades and through the draft. So I got to get as many picks as I possibly can.
OKC model. Just get as many first round picks as you can.
Because we're starting over, and I understand that with Miles Turner, I can probably garner another player, but I'm starting over. So this is not going to be a quick fix. So if I can get something where I can get a lot of draft picks, I can get 2 1s for him, depending on who I get them from, then absolutely that means that I'm probably going to 86 teams like Miami because they're going to have low draft picks. I need high draft picks, right? So I'm gonna have to go with teams like Sacramento. I'm gonna have to go with a team like New Orleans or Oklahoma City because they got a bunch of draft picks. Absolutely. How about you give me one? How about you give me 2 of those ones and I'll give you Miles Turner because I know you guys are rebuilding.
Yeah.
They've obviously, like I said, Tone, we've obviously gone the other way. So T.J. Warren, Karis LeVert, Miles Turner, Sabonis, O'Donnell. All of these guys, we basically are starting over. So because we starting over, I need picks.
Yep.
And I need young players back I need young, durable players back because what I have right now, it's not working. So we obviously have to turn this thing around and it's not going to be quick.
Yeah. Yeah. So to answer the question, if I'm the Pacers GM, listen, up until now, it hasn't worked. So you know what? It's not a quick fix. It's not a tweak. It's not a tweak. Right. So I think I can get 6 first-round picks and maybe 3 young players out of this group of guys. Then that's what I'm doing. So I know you're a Pacers fan, so you're probably not going to like this answer. But yeah, it's going to be trust the process. It's going to be 3 years. It's going to be 3 years before you're relevant. But do it right now. Just like I tell my kids, rip the Band-Aid off quick.
Just do it
and get it done. All right. Is it time to get rid? So the Ted, I think I'm saying his last name right. The Ted Stipend rule in the NBA basically states that you can't give up back-to-back first-round picks. And that's really stopping a lot of teams who are trying to rebuild, like the Pacers. I think I think the Lakers, there was a rumor about the Lakers making a trade with the Rockets. Westbrook for John Wall and a first. The Lakers give up the first. And the Lakers would have to give up the 2027 first-round pick because they can't give up back-to-back first-round picks. Is it time to get rid of that rule? Like, if you want to trade away 5 first-round picks in a row, then it's crazy, but hey, that's your prerogative to do it.
I don't know if it's nuts, Tony. And the reason why I don't know if it's nuts is because you might get fleeced into Indiana might get fleeced, or New Orleans might get fleeced into giving up 3 back-to-back ones. And New Orleans has to build their team through the draft. And what we can't have Minnesota giving up 3 1s and they're trash for the next 5 years. That's just so bad for the product.
But they're trash anyways.
Well, actually, they're not.
Okay, what about this? What about the flip side? What about a team like the Bucks, right? Who are going to be good. They're going to be a top team for the next 5 or 10 years. Right. And that we're talking about pick 30, 31, 32. Well, who cares?
Here's the thing, though, Tone. We don't know that, number one. Number two, that's a small market. Number two, that's a small market. If you look at the way that team was built, I mean, they got Drew Holiday through a trade. They got Giannis in the draft. They got Connaughton in the draft. They got DiVincenzo in the draft.
Early in the draft.
Right. These guys, this is how we built our unit, through the draft. They got Middleton in a trade with Detroit. But for the majority of these small market teams, Milwaukee, Indiana, New Orleans, Minnesota,
let's use the Lakers. When the Lakers are really good, don't look at right now. When the Lakers are really good, and we're talking about the Lakers with the 30, 31st, 32nd pick, who cares if they give 2 31s?
Well, that doesn't matter, not particularly at that time. Only except Kobe Bryant's not going to be on the crew, or Shaq's not going to be here forever. So don't forget, we needed those draft picks when Shaq left, because they didn't make the playoffs in 05, 06, and 04, 05. They got bounced in round one because in 05, 06, and they got to the playoffs because Kobe had averaged 35 a game. Those draft picks may have very well helped. They got bounced in the playoffs the next year in round one. Kobe had averaged 32 a game. Those draft picks may have very well helped. I can appreciate Los Angeles being a big market, but we do need our draft picks. We can't just pluck guys from other teams.
So you're saying the rule should stand to save teams from themselves?
Absolutely, because a prime example of a guy who will fleece you, and I'm so glad that he's out of Boston, which would be Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge is telling everybody that Markelle Fultz is his guy. Only except everybody's going, really? You like him? And really, you like him? And then he goes, well, I'll tell you what I'll do, Philly. I'll give you this number one pick, even though Jason Tatum was his guy from the door. Yeah. Jason Tatum was his guy from the door. So I'll give you the number 3 pick. You give me that. I'll give you my number. I'll give you my number 1. You give me your number 3, and you give me your 1 next year. And I'll do that because you really love Markelle Fultz. Actually, I don't. I really love Jason Tatum, but I'm going to tell you that I love this guy. And what did that do for Philly? That set them back.
Whose fault is that?
Right. So I got to say, my fault.
So we need to put rules in to protect you because you don't know what you're doing.
Tone, there's a reason why there's a drinking age limit. Okay, there's a reason why that's going on. Because I have to save you from yourself, because you could sink us. You could get tricked, and you could sink us. Where prime example would be Minnesota. Didn't they have to give the Warriors? Not only did they have to give, they gave the Warriors Andrew Wiggins, and they ended up with Minnesota's number 1. Now Minnesota is a team that we have to build our unit through the draft. So we not only do we need our draft picks, we need our lottery picks, Tone. We need all of them because nobody's coming up here signing as a free agent. So we need our picks. So the last thing that can happen is us getting fleeced. That doesn't help us. In fact, that kills us.
So you heard it. Chilltown here wants to save grown people, because I don't want to say men because it's women too, want to save GMs from themselves, professionals making millions of dollars. I disagree. All right, next question. We get this question a lot, which is weird because we almost never talk about boxing. But I mean, 20 requests. Greatest boxer of all time. And you follow boxing. I don't know why I pointed that. You follow boxing more than I do. Mm-hmm. So I'll just say mine quickly because I look at what he did in the ring. I also look at what he did outside the ring. Mm-hmm. I also look at his effect on the world. I also look at how well he treated me when I met him. So I'm going to say for me, and no one can convince me otherwise, it's Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at lists, though, I see Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Sugar Ray. You watch boxing more. What do you think?
Muhammad Ali, in terms of technique, in terms of hand speed, in terms of footwork, he's the best. And I don't think it's close. That's number 1. There's a difference between the best and my favorite. Lennox Lewis is my favorite. Pound for pound, you could say that Floyd Mayweather is the best. But I can also make an argument for Roy Jones, who had the fastest hands that I've ever seen.
Yes.
Roy Jones had the fastest
I don't know that you
hands
actually see his hands.
Right. He had the fastest hands I've ever seen. He had the quickest jab. He was one of the best boxers at keeping guys away from him.
And very underrated in the Matrix. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, very. I didn't even know he was in the Matrix.
He was good. He was good.
I did not know that. So for me, the best to ever do it is Ali. But my favorite all time is Lennox Lewis.
Okay. Well, for me, the best to ever do it, and my favorite, Muhammad Ali for both. So, in the comments, we haven't even asked for you to subscribe and do all that stuff that you should do. Let us know who your favorite boxer is. And because when you ask us this again, I'm just going to tell you, hey, go back to this episode and check it out. Because it's surprised how many requests we have for this. Is crazy. All right. We're going to go back to football and end it on this one. If you're the Atlanta Falcons, what do you do with Calvin Ridley?
I think you keep Calvin Ridley, and I think that we move on with our quarterback. I think it's time to go with Matt Ryan. I think we've gotten everything that we're going to get out of him, and I think that it's time to move on. And when the draft comes, I don't think this is going to be a heavy quarterback draft, but I think that we move on from Matt Ryan. I think we get a quarterback in the draft, and we call up the Seattle Seahawks and ask for Russ.
Everybody should be calling Seattle for Russ, apparently.
Call up Seattle.
Yes, because we know his wife is from there. It's closer than Louisiana.
That's actually where the 1-2. That's actually where the 1-2 step originated. All right,
there you go.
Let's play on that. So I don't think Calvin.
All right, Russ. Let us see you 1-2 step your way to Atlanta.
Absolutely.
See, I look at it from this perspective, from a person who is an advocate and talks mental health. I think Atlanta, needs to, if this is the question, back up Calvin Ridley as best you can, and be there for him and support him, and give him whatever he needs to get right. From a business, from a football executive, I need to know if this guy's committed to the team, if this guy's committed to football, and if he's not, I got to move on. I know that sounds harsh and it sounds cold.
That's business.
But that's the business of it, is that if you're not going to play, if you're not, I'll still even support him and help him financially. But if you're not able to play, then, whether it's whether it's because of mental health or physical injury, if you're unavailable, then I got to make a really hard business decision that I don't want to make. So, I think that's the tougher one, right? I think from a personal standpoint, hey, we're here for you. We do what we can. From a football standpoint, well, if you're not on the field, I can't pay you. Now, granted, he's probably on his rookie deal, but I can't pay you an extension. I can't give you a long-term commitment if you're not going to play. So the business side of it actually is the tougher one, right? Because on the field, he's super talented. He could be one of the better receivers in the league. But if you're not on the field, that's a tough one. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that, guys. That one too, guys, in the comments, and let us know. Don't forget to send your questions for mail drop, and we'll get to them just like we did today. We'll be back on Friday. We know we're going to talk about Quinn Snyder. We're going to make our picks for this week. So basically, this week, whoever we pick, we're talking Super Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Super Bowl. 49ers, Rams, Bengals. I think they're the biggest surprise for me. Bengals and Chiefs are the final four. So we're going to talk about that, bring some NBA stuff, and whatever else comes up. But until then,
take it light, but take it.